In this half of the module, I'll talk you through the questions you need to ask to take a thorough job spec from a client. Let's assume your client has an opportunity and you've secured a call to take the job spec. These are the questions that you need to ask. Start by asking for the job title. Now, I know it sounds obvious, but a specific job title will help you prepare for the search. Now ask your client about the package for the role and how it's made up. This includes the salary bracket, staff benefits, such as a company car, petrol allowance, healthcare, and whether benefits increase with promotions. Check if the budget has been signed off for this role and ask your client if they're willing to consider a more senior or junior candidate. I would say something like, if I found an exceptional candidate who's currently on 10% over the package that you've mentioned, would you still consider them? How much flexibility do you have for the ideal individual? Now ask the client to list the top 5 companies they'd like the ideal employee to come from, and also where the last 3 hires came from. You can use these companies to start sourcing candidates in the next module. Now ask your client what recent event has led to this opportunity becoming available. If the vacancy is a result of somebody leaving, it's useful to understand the challenges and difficulties the previous candidate faced within this role. If the last employee wasn't delivering, ask why in which specific areas. Similarly, if the last employee impressed them, find out what made them so special. If it's a new role, make sure to mention this to your candidates when you qualify them. New opportunities are much more exciting to prospective candidates. Now establish the key requirements for the role for your client. What do they need and expect from someone in this role? This is the most important question you will ask when taking a job spec. Once you know your client's key requirements, you'll know exactly what you're looking for when sourcing and qualifying potential candidates. How long has the client been looking to fill this role? If your client has been looking for a while, you should ask them about the people they've interviewed so far. If they haven't been able to fill the vacancy for a long time and have interviewed lots of candidates, you should read into this as a warning sign. The client might want a candidate with certain skills, but the salary they're offering is probably too low, or the company could hire and fire too quickly, meaning that frankly nobody wants the job. If the role has been live for more than 3 months, you need to understand why and why it hasn't been filled. If you don't, you could end up on a search for an unrealistic candidate. Now ask about the start date. If the role needs filling urgently, you can set your working pace accordingly. If they don't need somebody straight away, ask why. This is also a good indicator of the client's commitment to filling this role. Always try and find out if anyone else is involved in the hiring process. I've often found that clients will involve colleagues I've never spoken to before and who have different views on what they're looking for later in the process. Ask politely for the extra set of contact details so that you can keep the process running smoothly. This also gives you extra contacts to add to your network. Ask your client about the working environment. What's the team structure like? What's the chain of command? Where does the new hire fit in? Is this a fast-paced role? Also, what would they use to measure the success of this role? How many people work in the organisation? Try and get a feel for the team your candidate will be joining by asking about the size of the department, the mix of experience within the team dynamics, and what the client's ideal personality profile would be. If the candidate doesn't suit the team environment, they'll probably start looking for another job within a few months, which will reflect really badly on you as the recruiter. Now it's time to start wrapping up the phone call. Thank your client for their time and let them know that the information you've received is really helpful. Reassure them that you're in a good position to find a candidate that will fit their requirements and the culture of the company. Tell them that some of the top candidates that you have in mind are already in permanent jobs. However, it's possible you could find them an interim who could hold the position until a permanent placement is made. Don't miss this opportunity to cross-sell within your business. It demonstrates your commitment to working on the brief. It also creates an opportunity for your temp desk. Now ask your client about the interview process. This will help you prepare the candidate for the interview with the client. Tell them what your plan of action is and when they can expect to hear back from you with relevant candidates. It's important to manage their expectations. You also need to schedule your next call. And finally, don't forget, you can decide whether you're going to work on this role. If you feel you can't meet the brief, try and think whether any of your colleagues can, and then put your client in touch with them. This is obviously dependent on the geography and whether a visit is possible depending on where you're based. I would always end the phone call by suggesting that I can visit the offices and meet with them and the wider team. You could say something like this: "Thank you so much for your time on the phone today. It was really helpful to get a better understanding of your company and the key requirements you need from this new hire. Seeing as we've not worked together before, I'd like to come and meet you at your offices to make sure I get the right candidate fit for you. What days are good for you this week?" This is a great opportunity to strengthen your relationship with the client and to experience the brand, the image and the culture. My key tips and takeaway from this module are: be thorough. Cutting corners will only lead to delays and frustrations later on in the process. Remember, the more information you have, the more likely you are to meet the brief. Persistence and transparency are key. Show your dedication, ambition to the client. Let them know that you are motivated and that they can rely on you. But you must establish an equal relationship. The client cannot expect deliverables that are out of your reach. Remember, you have the right to exercise a decision too. Build rapport. If you let your personality shine through, you will experience a much easier, a more efficient, a more enjoyable road towards success. This module has covered a huge amount of detail, but trust me when I say that when things go wrong later on in the process, you can usually trace them back to this critical stage, especially if you've compromised in any steps as part of taking the job spec.